morning. We just left Devita. The appointment was about 7 minutes long because everything looks great. I was a little bummed because I like to do my phone calls like that over the phone, and in the event that I don't need an EPO shot or anything else, then it's just kind of easier to do it over the phone. But I guess they don't do it over the phone anymore. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just lack of concentration on the other person's end or something. But I would have to say that during the whole COVID scamademic, it was great that hospitals and, appointments could be made on the phone. And especially in my situation, especially if I don't need a shot or anything particular, then just kind of makes it easier. So anyways, like I said, everything was really good. My lab works are great. I'm feeling better and better for some reason. I don't know. Last night I did get 35 minutes of deep sleep, so that could contribute to it. And then this morning I decided to make homemade bruschetta. Bruschetta? I don't know how you're supposed to say it, because I know that we in America typically don't pronounce it right. But I was watching a reel, and I remember quite a few years ago when we lived by the U of A, we would have like little get-togethers and things like that at the house. And so I don't know how I came across this recipe, but you take little pieces of bread that are toasted, and you can buy them that way, especially at Sprouts. And then I would take a thin slice of mozzarella cheese and a thin slice of tomato, and I would put a basil leaf on top and drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper, and it was so delicious. So a couple of days ago when I was at Fry's, I saw they had basil plants again, and I have the hardest time keeping basil plants alive. So I went ahead and bought one because it was only $4. And the cool thing about it is that the basil plants that you buy at the grocery stores are usually about 2 or 3, sometimes more, plants in one little pot. And so you can really break down the basil plant itself and, repot it and then go from there, And so I ended up with 2 different basil plants, and I'm trying to keep them alive because it's a little difficult especially in Tucson, like what is going to burn to death in the sun and what is not. And so where I have them is in my kitchen in my front window, which does get some direct light in the morning, and then at least by 7 or 8 the sun's already in the sky, so it's not going to burn them to death, and they're in the inside of the house. So I don't know, I already saw some leaves turning colored. I don't know if it's because of the transplant or because of that it's just too hot there. I don't know. So anyways, that story to tell you that I went ahead and dove into trying to keep alive another basil plant. But I found a recipe on the Tasty app for bruschetta, and what they did is they don't do the mozzarella cheese, but they take fresh garlic, which I love, some fresh garlic, some tomato. Cherry tomatoes, what I used, because cherry tomatoes tend to have much more of a flavor to them. Chopped up some of the fresh basil, a little bit of olive oil, a little salt, a little pepper, and mushed it all together, and then put it on my toasted toast, which I always like to toast my little pieces in olive oil. So amazing. When the toast is in the pan and I've already flipped it, Then on that side, I go ahead and put my thin slices of mozzarella cheese so that it's a little bit of a melty situation. And then I take them out and then I put those toppings on, and it was so good, guys. I was so proud of myself. Like, it feels like such a fancy dish. And the reason it feels fancy to me is because I love watching the movie, is it Julia and Julie? Julia and Julia? God, now I can't even think of it. It's with Meryl Streep, and she plays Julia Child. And it's just a super cute, I think it is Julia. It's a super cute movie, and in that movie, one of the first recipes that the main character makes for her husband is bruschetta. And I've always seen that and thought, God, that looks so delicious. And so a couple of days ago, I was remembering when I had made that other version of what I didn't even realize was a bruschetta. And so this morning, I just felt so good and so fancy having made this bruschetta the correct way. And it really does make the difference with the garlic. I think you might over garlic it if you're not careful, because is there such a thing as too much garlic? I don't think so. But I could see how in this recipe it might have that effect, because you definitely want to have the sweet tomato taste, a little bit of the salt, and then also the basil leaves. You want those flavors to pop through, and it was so great. So now I was going to race home because I still have one more little piece to eat at home, but I think I'm going to run by this cactus farm that's here in Tucson, because I'm getting very excited about succulents, and I've been watching and educating myself on how to keep succulents alive. Mostly because, honestly, between about 11 to about 3, I shut myself into my apartment and I don't leave because it's just too hot for me. And I think yesterday it rained, which was great, but I think today is going to be like 93. And that's just gross. For me, it just feels gross and heavy and ugh. So I'm getting back into that rhythm of shutting the blinds, shutting all the open windows, because at night it's nice enough to still have the windows open. Although you can tell that it's starting to get hot at night, but I do like to try to have fresh air in the apartment. But honestly, between those times, so I was thinking of things that I can do that would be proactive. I typically will eat my lunch, and then I usually take at least a 20-minute nap, and then I'll have to do my exchange and then whatever else I have planned. But I really want to see if I can cultivate my ability when it comes to succulent plants, because they do thrive very well in Tucson. They can't be in the extreme sun, but the way my apartment is set up, I think that they do really well in my windows. And I think that they're just a species that I've never really paid attention to, which I can shoot myself in the foot, because like, how much money have I spent on these little succulent plants that have died because I just had no idea how to take care of them? And so I do blame social media in helping to educate me, because I watch those reels all the time of these people who just take snippets of this and snippets of that, and they create this little atmosphere in these little bowls, because quite frankly, succulents don't need that much. And so it's just fascinating to see them work the magic when it comes to the succulents. And so, I don't know. That's just kind of my obsession as of lately, is trying to figure out how to do that. My mom did give me a jade plant that she had taken off of her plant. And so I went ahead and took off some of the bottom leaves. And jade plant is a succulent. And so I decided that I would... I think I got 4 leaves, and I put them in little peat pots so that I can see if I can grow more jade plants from those leaves themselves. Now, theory is, yes, you can, but am I capable of it? Because I have kidney disease, if I'm thirsty, I think everything else is thirsty, and so I do overwater. I'm trying really hard not to. And then the other thing is that because summer has now come upon us, the inside plants that are doing fine don't need as much water as possibly the outside plants because they're in direct sun. And see, again, then I think, oh my gosh, they're in the sun, they're hot, but they're cactus. So they like the sun, they like the hot, they like the drought, they like to feel thirsty, I guess. But I'm just like, I don't know, you look thirsty. It's so terrible. I don't know why. I have to like baby them or something. Speaking of baby, later today I will have Mr. Charlie Bear. He's going to come over for a couple hours. I think, depending on the temperature, I always have great plans, but then when the heat hits, my plans tend to change. I think, though, we want to go to Costco later on tonight, so hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it won't be so hot, because I just hate lugging him around when it's hot. But I also like taking him places and having him experience life and people and helping him develop proper social skills, you know, like saying please and thank you. I mean, he's not even talking yet, hardly. He does say dada, but, and he does chatter, like he chatters to pretty much anybody and everybody. But actual talk is not quite there yet. But I do want him to get used to being out and being considerate of others. I notice that a lot with kids these days, is their lack of consideration for people's space, items. I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a little one around in a long time, and Ben is pretty quiet for a teenager. He's just never been annoyingly rude. You know, he just isn't that kind of person. And so I just don't want the little ones to grow up thinking that they're the boss and the ruler of everything, because I don't think that's healthy. I think they definitely need guidance. So that's why I like to take Charlie places, and to get him, you know, to talk to him about, like, oh, we're at Fry's and we're going to get eggs. Here are the eggs, and we're going to get milk. And, oh, look at this. There's a cow. You know, things like that just interact with him, because I just want him to be learning as much as he wants to. So anyways, I'll let you go. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.